This is the Autumn-Winter 2019 lookbook from HAMCUS called Raven. I did a deep dive into HAMCUS after the Bliss video and I'm just totally obsessed. But I can't afford anything they make, so maybe I can make my own?
The plan is to make a hoodie. I'll start with my basic body block and create a joined front and back body pattern. Add style lines for a raglan sleeve and further style lines to achieve that HAMCUS look. From this, I'll draft individual patterns for each of the panels. Details will include stacked pockets, double sleeves, and multicoloured panelling.
I'm going to be fiddling around with the pattern for quite a while, so if you're just here for the sewing or the final garment, use the chapters to skip ahead. Otherwise,
I lay out my basic body block. I have a full guide to drafting your own body block if you're interested. I trace out the back pattern, flip the paper over, and line up the side seams to draft the front panel. I can now add the style lines for the raglan sleeves, and I take some time to block out the shapes of all the panels from my original design. For materials, I have these 4 jersey knit jumpers from the charity shop. I wanted to use the mint green for the main front and back panels, the olive for the sides, the black jersey for the sleeves and hood, and honestly, I've been wearing this black hoodie and I think I'm keeping it. Also, with a few modifications, I could make the Gruel hoodie from episode 16 of The Witch from Mercury. Anyway, I digress. I need to know if I have enough material in these jumpers for the panels, so I rip them down and start placing them. The centre back panel is covered, and there's plenty of olive to make the sides. However, there isn't enough material in the mint for the front. I'm going to have to go back to the sketchbook. And after a bit of thought, I come up with this. I'm going to make the main front panel out of the black, but add a kangaroo pouch to include the mint in the front. This will come up pretty high, and I'll also keep the side pockets. This look feels like HAMCUS, but that patterning is worryingly complex. I lay out another sheet of tracing paper, and I've decided I can probably use the existing raglan sleeves from the Black Crew, so trace the armholes off of that. I reduce the width of the back panel a little to make sure I have enough fabric and start footering around with the style lines for the front. This is totally confusing and I'm winging it at this point, but I think I have something I can work from. It's time to trace off the final pattern pieces and add seam allowance. I also try to include notch marks to help with the alignment later. With all these complex shapes, it'll be crucial that I get these in the right place so that the joins lay flat. I honestly have no idea how I'm going to get all these stacked pockets to work, but that's a problem for later. I commit to my pattern and start cutting the panels. I'm a little short on fabric for the back panel, but with a bit of desperation and careful marking, I think I'll be able to force this to fit. I also find out that there isn't enough material in the black, so I do something chaotic. Construction starts with the easy stuff of joining the matching colour panels. These then get a top stitch in this high contrast acid green for the cybergoth nod. And I'm pretty happy with this as a feature. Now for the first tricky task, joining the 2 parts of the back panel. This has to be perfectly aligned and joined so that the seams can lay flat. I take my time with the pinning and stitch the join twice, starting at the centre point each time, making sure the alignment is spot on at the corners. And I'm pretty happy with this. I snip round the corners on the excess for a bit of easing, press the seam open and twin stitch. This time with matching thread and I'm ecstatic. I can now turn to the front. I start with the side pocket. I lay the zip in position and mark the outside edge. I then mark the edge of the zip track. On the long edge, I leave enough seam allowance so that I can line up the raw edge with the edge of the zip track. I only leave a little excess on the top and bottom. With right sides together, I join the pieces on the long edge, flip it back and top stitch it in place, before folding the top and bottom edges and top stitching those. Finally, I line up the pocket lining with right side facing wrong and stitch along the top and side. trim the corner and flip it out. I press this into shape and put it to the side for now. The kangaroo pocket is joined with an acid green twin stitch. The sides are secured with a zigzag and hem. I also joined the two parts of the black panel. The join will be hidden, otherwise I would have done this in black. I can now lay these all out in position. I'm going to join the side pockets and kangaroo before I add it to the front panel. They are carefully pinned together, and I use the top stitching to join them. I then lay the pockets on the black panel and again pin in place. I stitch inside the open pockets along the edge of the kangaroo. This will enclose that pocket. Now I can run a stitch across the bottom over everything, closing the bottom edge, and top stitch the outside corners of the side pockets to the black. I add a bar tack here as there is a lot of weight and stress on this point. Finally, I fold back the top edge of the kangaroo and stitch it down with 2 lines of top stitching and bar tacks at either edge, and the front panel is complete. I just have to put in the side seams now, and they have stayed in alignment for the most part. I just add a single line of top stitching to the olive to hold back this side seam. I quickly pin the sleeves in place and run a loose running stitch to check the fit, and, well, he's happy just now, but we'll talk about that later. I decide to abandon the double sleeves, possibly due to laziness, but I tell myself that it's because I'm happy with the silhouette as it is. I put the sleeves in proper, this time with a zigzag stitch to secure the seam, something I think I should have done a lot more of. And now we can take on the last big problem, the hood. I've never drafted a hood before, but I've been doing my research and traced the shape of the front and back neckline off of the jumper. Then sit down to Thoughtful Creative's How To. Great channel if you're not already watching. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, I'll save that for my own tutorial one day, but I draft the basic shape and bleed for it in the process. Can you bleed on YouTube? I want to continue the green up from the back panel, so we'll change this into a 3-panel pattern. I need to take 6 centimeters out of the center seam, which I measure and draft in. And this is the final pattern. I have just enough of the black for the sides and have to join 2 scraps of the olive for the center. To add a cord, I'm going to put buttonholes into the side and I mark their position, run a quick test, and then completely ruin the only bit of black fabric I can use for the hood. I also jank up my machine, so this That was my best attempt at a HAMCUS style product showcase. So what did you miss? Eventually I abandoned the buttonhole foot for a box of bar tacks. I assembled the hood and stitched it in place, and I took a sizable chunk out of the ribbing to try and snatch in the waist. But that was flawed. This one kinda got away from me at the end, but only because I let it. After that first test fit, this garment started to nag at me. I just didn't really like it anymore. And everything after that point was rushed, leading to a multitude of avoidable sewing mistakes. The cord holes being the worst, but not bothering to switch my bobbin to black on the hood was just lazy, and messing with the ribbing was stupid. As I see it, there are 3 main faults. The garment should end at the waist, not the hips. The pocket assembly is too heavy for the garment, dragging the front down, and the style lines don't flow through the form of the garment. In profile you can really see it. The olive flows around the shoulders and curves around the body in a way that I really love, but by the time you get round to the front, the idea collapses in aggressive straight lines and needless complexity, which is a shame because so much of this is really good. At no point did I think I was actually going to sew this paneling as well as I did. that I was going to seamlessly integrate this prefab raglan sleeve into the garment. Even though their design is flawed, the construction of the pockets is really good, apart from that bit, and the fact that I got the first zip track upside down and was forced to do the other one to match. But having worn this a bit, I'm actually coming round to it. I may even rip the waistband and put that bit of cutout back in. The hood is a mess, and I'm not going to try and fix that, but the pattern will only require a slight adjustment for future use. So, what have I learned from this project? Well, design is iterative. You can't go from sketch to final product, there needs to be stages in between, and if I consider this garment as version 1, well, here's what I'm thinking for version 2. The back will stay the same, I really do love it. I'll raise the drop significantly, and mimic the curve across the shoulders by continuing it across the belly, creating a sort of F shape. I'll integrate the pockets into this, possibly with zips, possibly with a welted pocket, but I'll have to learn how to do that first. Will the final look be HAMCUS? Probably not, but it will be mine. Will it be another piece of Y2K nostalgia that dates horribly? I should point out that this approach of upcycling existing garment forces you into these weird sort of patterning problems, and my experience with this garment has only strengthened my resolve to continue in this vein. This is what I do. I just have to get good at it. Thanks very much for watching. If you've got this far into the video, you are my hero and I love you deeply. Please help me grow this channel by sharing this content, reaching out in the comments, or just watching the next film linked in the end screen.